Hi, this is Peter Friedrich, and today we're speaking with Adil Sheikh. Adil, I want to welcome you and I want to thank you for your willingness to offer your time and your perspective on what's happening in Kashmir, which is where you're from. Can you tell us briefly a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Peter. I am from Kashmir. I was born in Kashmir and I grew up there. I grew up in the downtown area of Srinagar and have witnessed conflict in Kashmir all my life. Most of my family is based there as well in Srinagar. I got my undergrad degree from University of Kashmir, where my dad also taught. I moved to the Midwest in the US and got my MBA and eventually moved to Portland, Oregon, where I'm living for 6 years now. I work for a Fortune 100 company as a product manager. For past 10 years, I have been involved with the art organization, creating platforms for the artists in Kashmir, voicing their opinions. And I am the founding member, one of the founding members of Kashmir Art Quest, which is a leading art organization in Kashmir promoting peace through art. And what we have seen through this, organization is that the artists that grew up in Kashmir, their artwork is greatly influenced by the conflict in Kashmir. So that was a little bit about myself.
Thank you, Anil. So you just returned from Kashmir, as I understand. I'd like to hear a little bit about that and especially some aspects of that, such as when did you leave? And of course, what was it like while you were there?
Yeah, I, every year I try to spend about a month with my family in Kashmir. And I left Kashmir on the 13th of August. I wanted to leave on 13th of August because every year we witness a curfew and a communication blackout on 14th and 15th of August. 15th of August is the Independence Day of India. And so this blackout, the communication blackout and curfew is nothing new to us. We experience this every year on this day. So I wanted to actually leave before August 15th because I knew that there will be a communication blackout. But I got to witness 9 days of curfew and got, caught into it more than I wanted to, and more than I actually anticipated. I witnessed about 9 days of the ongoing blackout and curfew, and I never felt so miserable leaving Kashmir like I felt this time. Just to give you a quick overview of how it started, is that a lot of a lot of Indian soldiers started pouring into the valley. There already are, and I'm sure you're aware of this, there already are about 700,000 Indian soldiers in Kashmir. India claims to have brought about 38,000 additional soldiers. The actual number of the additional soldiers is believed to be 5 times more than India actually claims. It really felt suffocating in Kashmir this time. It always does, but this time it was overwhelmingly suffocating in Kashmir. Then on August 2nd, the Indian government asked tourists and students from outside of Kashmir to leave Kashmir. So what Indian government did, it claimed to have found a US-made sniper and blamed Pakistan for planning a terror attack on Yatris, which are the Hindu pilgrims who visit Kashmir every year. And what this did is, the anxiety among Kashmiris grew, which led to a lot of speculations made. Some of them, on the Article 370 and 335A. Some of them were like, this might be a preparation Pakistan, and others were more like, this might be, they want to change the demographics of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So there were a lot of speculations being made. And on the night of August 4th, what happened was there was a communication blackout and a curfew. We woke up to realize that we cannot go outside, and a curfew has been imposed. There was a total communication blackout.
Well,
No mobile.
let me ask you,
Yeah.
when you woke up and you realized that you cannot go outside, there's this curfew, what's that like, and what's the realization process? How do you realize that?
I tried to, because I was in Kashmir only for a specific number of days, so I tried to go outside because I wanted to go to my uncle's house, and there is army on the streets who did not let me come outside the house. They did not
So,
let me come outside my house. Yeah.
so you went to open the door to go outside the house, and you step outside and you see soldiers, and they tell you go back inside?
Yes, that's exactly what happened. Yeah. And uh, you know, people had already kind of had an idea what might happen, but did not realize that it'll be so bad, that we won't be allowed to even step outside the houses. And there will be a communication blackout, no mobile phones, no landlines, no internet. Um, the only way I was connected was a radio, and a channel, which is an all India radio.
Mm.
And to my surprise, um, I started listening to all India radio, and it kept running a news, which is when I stopped listening to it. The all India radio said that the people of Kashmir have welcomed the abolition of Article 370 of the Indian Constitution, the special status of of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. That is when I stopped listening to this radio channel, and that is how I was totally disconnected. Um, so so it tells you how even the All India Radio, a media channel, also lies. Um, so and then on August 12th, which is the day of Eid, um, on the day of Eid, the armed forces did not even allow prayers in some mosques. People who tried to approach mosques in Srinagar area, very close to the Dal Lake, and they tried to approach the mosque where boats and shikaras were actually attacked by Indian soldiers with slingshots. Um, and and this year we did not really celebrate Eid. So this is how what it was like in Kashmir.
So let me ask you, Adil, as far as a little bit more about what it was like in Kashmir. Now, were you stuck inside your house this entire time? This multiple day period? I think you said from the 4th until the 13th. That's what, 8, 9 days?
Yeah, I spent about 9 days, yes, inside the house.
Okay, and this entire 9 days, the whole period, you weren't allowed to come outside of your home.
Um, there were some relaxations, in the evening, where we would go and get essentials, like milk and bread, and things like that. But other than that, we were not really allowed to go anywhere. I wanted to see friends. I wanted to see family on my trip, which I always try to do, is see my friends and family. I have uncles. I did not get a chance to meet them.
So let me ask you, as you consider what your life is like in America, and you actually recently wrote a Facebook post about this, about what it would look like if the similar clampdown that's being applied in Kashmir were applied in Oregon, where you're from, the state of Oregon. But let me
Yeah.
ask you, compared to what you're used to in Oregon and the day-to-day life, how does that compare to Kashmir as far as the troop presence, as far as walking down the street and what you see and what you're allowed to do?
there is no comparison. There is, you cannot compare Kashmir and Oregon. There's no comparison. And you know, I grew up in Kashmir, and abnormal was normal in Kashmir. You know, I grew up in a time where, you know, the militancy was at its peak. It was the most violent time in Kashmir. So, and the reason I wrote that post you just mentioned was because while I was in Kashmir, from when I did not have internet, uh, you know, till the time I landed somewhere where I did have internet in, you know, in Delhi, and then I went to London from there. Um, I had a number of people trying to get in touch with me, asking how I'm doing, if I'm alive. So for my friends who live in Oregon who have never experienced something like this, I wanted to write it, you know, I wanted to compare, I wanted to write a post, uh, and 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 kind of give an example of what it would look like if something like this would happen in Oregon. At the same time, I wish something like this never happens in Oregon, and it does not happen anywhere in the world. What happened in Kashmir and what India did in Kashmir.
And when you were there, how were people reacting to this latest action and the increased troop presence and the curfew that was imposed? And how were the security forces treating people? You mentioned that they were using slingshots against protesters, for instance.
Yeah, no, those were not protesters. Those were people who were trying to get to the mosques for Eid prayers uh, in the boats. You know, because there's a lake close, you know, in the heart of the city of Srinagar. People who were trying to get to the mosque via boats, they were attacked by the Indian Army with those slingshots. And there are, you know, all you see right now in Srinagar are just razor wires and Indian Army with guns. You know, this is my first-hand experience being there until August 13th. I hope everybody is okay. I have not been in touch with my family after that. I hope, or anybody, you know, my friends, my family. I have not been in touch with them. I just hope and pray that they are okay.
Well, that leads right into my next question, Anil, which is that there has been this communications blackout in Kashmir. And some media outlets are reporting that it's been relaxed, that it's been lifted, at least in part, that landlines have been restored at least. Oh, what do you have to say about that?
Like I said, I have not been able to reach my family or friends after August 13th, the day I left Kashmir. Um, the claim sounds like another lie that Indian government is spreading to depict a picture that is different than reality. So I know there are 2 satellite phones in DC office in Srinagar for about 1.2 million people living in the city to not only make calls but also receive calls. You know, that might be what they're talking about, and that that to me is a joke.
Now,
Um,
I do know that there are these government booths that have been set up in order to allow people to go to this location and line up and make a call from a government booth, which apparently is from the way it's being reported, it appears to be it's unrestricted. Anybody can do it, but you do have to go to this government booth to do it. How do you feel about that idea? How do you feel about communication being channeled through that method?
yeah, I came to know about these lines that are in DC offices. You know, the the DC office in Srinagar. Um, the divisional commissioner officer, I believe that is what it's called. Um, but to reach the DC office, you know, Srinagar is a big city. Reaching there with all the hassles and with the curfew, which is nearly impossible. And then also, and the whole city of Srinagar has two lines, and the population of the city of Srinagar is 1.2 million. And that is when I said it sounds like a joke to me that there are two phone lines to not only make calls but receive calls for about 1.2 million people. So yeah, that is, and there are a lot of other claims that are that are made, things that are being said. There are people that this is all done for your own good. To them, I would like to say that this is the most revolting thing that you could tell somebody under a siege. There are others who say that this is for the development of Kashmir. To them, I would like to say that, pushing Kashmir to a stone age by a communication blackout and an economic blockade is no way, which shows good intent of India towards Kashmir or Kashmiris. Sopore, which is the second largest fruit market in Asia and the largest economic hub, is right now shut down at its peak season. It is totally shut down. Tourism, which is an important part of Kashmir, is totally dead right now. Tourists were actually asked to leave Kashmir, 2 days before they suddenly forced a blackout in Kashmir. And students from outside of Kashmir studying in colleges in Kashmir were forced to leave. And the schools and colleges are actually shut down. This shows the intent of India towards Kashmiris and Kashmir.
Let me ask you about that, Adil. Let
yeah.
me ask you about that. Of course, as you've already alluded to, the Modi government has given this reason, primary justification for doing this as being development. Now, what do you believe is their real motive behind what's happening there?
I'm not sure if you're aware that Modi was banned from setting foot on the US soil for nearly a decade. Not sure if you're aware of this, but that was before, that was before he became the Prime Minister of India. And that was because of his serious violations of religious freedom and his role in creating a Hindu-Muslim riot and a genocide in his home state of Gujarat. This is who is the Prime Minister of India today. And this was done, this was all done by him to polarize the to kind of polarize the population to win an election and get the Hindu vote. Modi's motive, what I think, India has a state, it has a state that it has a Muslim majority population, the state of Jammu and Kashmir. And Modi's motive is to change the demographics of this region.
So I've heard some people refer to the party which Modi comes from as a religious nationalist party. And as you've mentioned this issue in Gujarat, I do want to briefly touch on that. Can you be a little bit more specific? What happened in Gujarat and how did it end up getting him banned? You say he was banned from entering the United States?
Yeah, he had serious, like I said, violations of religious freedom. There was a genocide done. He created a situation where there were riots in Gujarat, and Muslims were actually, massacred. And he had given a full support for that, so that he could get a vote bank of the majority, which is Hindus. Very unfortunate, very, very unfortunate that something like this could be used to get into the power. And it has been seen time and again that he uses religion as an element to get into power.
So I do want to briefly return to this question, which you've already alluded to, but what was it like growing up in Kashmir, Adil?
Uh, growing up in Kashmir, you know, it was uh, it was very, it it felt normal. I didn't realize how abnormal it was. We growing up, we saw Indian Army as thugs, as they barged into our houses for regular searches and disarray things. Like I mentioned, I grew up during the most violent times in Kashmir, and I was too young to understand what really is happening. I grew up, uh, you know, during the time of militancy, and then the militancy actually started when India rigged elections in Kashmir. 1987, and the youth had taken part, had taken a great interest in these elections. And when India rigged the elections and put everybody in jail, they decided to fight Indian violence with violence, and the violence just kept growing. I have family members who have been directly affected by the Kashmir conflict, both injured and dead.
So before I move to a conclusion and ask my final question, Adil, is there anything else that's on your mind or that's in your heart that you wanted to touch on?
No, um, you know, um, um, I I would like to mention that um, you know I would like to talk about the future. That that I would want for the home of my ancestors, the home of my home, and and by looking at the past and by looking at the present, you can kind of predict the future, and the future under current circumstances look very dark. They look very dark, um, and this worries me. What I want, what we want as Kashmiris, is we want freedom from the Indian occupation and Indian atrocities. We want a referendum under UN supervision where we choose our future. This is what was promised to us. And this is a very common feeling among the people of Kashmir. Human rights violation and human rights abuse in Kashmir is not an internal matter of India. It is not an internal matter to India. Um, I don't think it's about Article 370 anymore. That was a bridge between India and Kashmir, and that bridge has been burned. This is a struggle about an independent state of Kashmir, which we have been pursuing for decades now.
So my final question for you, Adil, is, as you mentioned just now, you don't believe that this is an internal affair and an internal matter for India alone. What role do you think that the international community has to play in this issue? Or what do you think they can do and what do you think they should do?
Peter, you're breaking up, but I think
Yes, please.
you asked me what international community can do.
Yes. What
I think
what can they do and what do you think they should do?
I think what is going on right now in Kashmir should open up the eyes of the international world, the United Nations. We have been waiting for a long time, um, for a solution of Kashmir, uh, for the aspirations of people of Kashmir. So, which actually is a referendum. We are waiting for to happen under the supervision of United Nations.
And you living in America, Deal. Just to ask one final question. Living in America
Right.
there, how would you like your congressional representatives to act?
You mean in America,
Yes,
from
yeah,
America?
yes. Your congressman, your congresswoman. How would you like them to act? What kind of action would you like them to take?
Peter, you're really breaking up. I can't hear you.
Okay, Deal. So I do wanna thank you for offering your time. And
I
I
can hear you now.
okay. Well then let me see if I can get this final question to you, Adil. Living in America, how would you like your congressional representative to act in relation to the issue in Kashmir?
Um, I, like I said, human rights in Kashmir is an international matter, and I would expect support from the international community in the United States, United Nations, and other places. So, uh, that is what I expect from the international community.
Okay, Adil. So
And I expect people to stand with Kashmir, because you know because um, because we have to put an end to the violence in Kashmir.
well, Adil, I do stand with you in desiring this end to the violence in Kashmir. And I want to thank you for your time and for your willingness to explain what you've experienced there just in recent days and to offer your opinions about the issue. Thank you so much.
I appreciate, Peter. Thank you so much.